just throw up the questions.
Yeah, excited to get started. I think our guys have worked really hard this summer. I think it's been a change from what they've done in the past, and I think it's been a good change. And yeah, ready to get back to it.
Questions? What went into your decision to coach under Stein? Like, what made you make that call coming in?
I hadn't met Will many times. I'd met him one time, and like really got a chance to talk to him. I really liked him. Talked to Dan Lanning about him. Really, really positive. The guys at Lake Travis really positive about him. Obviously, I knew he was a really good offensive coach, and I think when we first started talking, I just felt like this was a guy that I would enjoy working with, and I kind of wanted to get back with an offensive head coach, where I could be a little bit more hands-on with the entire defense, and it's been great.
As a defensive guy, what is it about that system that just keep you up at night?
About Will's offense and Joe's offense. You don't get the same look very many times, so you got to be able to defend everything. Obviously, Kenny, been really impressed with Kenny Minchie, but I think, the ability for the quarterback to get in and out of a bad play and get into a good play. And then, a lot of, the thing they do a really good job of, I think, is like the motions, the shifts, the tempos. Like, you're kind of always, you never feel like you got your cleats in the ground ready to go. I think that's a challenge.
Jay, how do you feel about your pass rushing options at this point, especially with Sam? It sounds like still a little.
Yeah. I think Sam's right where we want him to be, really. I mean, I think, when you have surgery, the day he had surgery, I think he's right on schedule. I think Tony's done a nice job with the Jacks. They haven't played as much, but they've got a lot of ability. And then I think Keese, getting McKees Humphrey Grace out there on the edge a little bit more will help him. But yeah, I feel like we've got good blitzers in the secondary, and we got pretty good blitzers at linebacker. But obviously the front is what matters, and I think players matter, but giving them the opportunity to rush the quarterback on non-third down plays, I think, will be important too. And I think that CJ and Cowan and Sam, I think will give us a pretty good benefit there.
What was your last stop? You guys were able to do some really great things on defense, specifically with the safeties. Wanted to get your thoughts on Ty and Jordan and how nice it is to have those guys leading the group.
Yeah, I think it's invaluable, like the experience they have. I mean, I don't think it's very often you get a young man to be able to transfer that's played over 2,000 snaps in the SEC like Jordan. So really a really valuable guy. And I think what's been cool, man, is he got here, and him and Ty it was like they've been playing together their whole life. I think that's been really cool to see. But when those two are out there, we can handle things. They're veterans. They've been through it a little bit, and I'm excited to see those guys go out and compete.
Jay, I think a lot of people look at Kentucky defensively and see the cornerback position as sort of a question. So what kind of answers do you have there?
When you say quarterback, you mean who's going to be there? Oh, corner? Gotcha. So look, I think Ryan Nichols is a really good player. He's banged up last year. I think when you watch them when he played last year, I thought that position was pretty solid. I think when they lost him, it was up in the air. And Grant and Gardner were true freshmen that weren't quite ready yet and had to play a little bit. So I really like Hassan Sykes, who we got in the transfer portal, a veteran player. I think he's everything that's right about everybody complains about the transfer portal, but Hassan Sykes is a kid that was committed to a Power 4 school. They make a coaching change. He kind of gets left out in the wind, goes to Western Carolina, and plays every snap essentially for 2 years, and now he's here, and now he's probably the place he should have been from the get-go, right? So there's some real positives out of it. So I feel like that. Alan Brown's done a great job with those kids. They're a year older. We're coaching them really well. I feel very confident in 4 or 5 of those kids going out there and playing. We'll probably play a lot of them and stay healthy, but I think there's talent there, and I felt good about that room when I got here, and I've been pretty impressed with their work this summer.
So you guys here have so much change happening, right? With the new head coach, new coordinators, all those things. Could you give fans maybe just like a 30,000-foot view of what the defense is going to look like, the style you guys are going to play?
I mean, Youngstown State's going to listen to this too.
I'm just talking about how.
Yeah,
what are the important things for you guys?
So here's what I think. I mean, I don't want this is a little bit of coach speak, but ultimately, if you line up with this many guys with their hand on the ground, or this many guys with their hand on the ground, or this many safeties, or that many nickels, all that is going to change week to week, right? If you just do the same thing all the time, it's pretty easy to attack, right? So, I think what we're trying to do is play with great effort, play with great communication, be physical. I think those are things that we're working on right now. And I think when you watch us, those are the things that matter to me the most, more so than like, are we in cover 3, or are we man free, or are we in Tampa 2? Like those, that matters to me more. And so, I think it'll be a little bit more multiple, in the front than it's been. But I think a lot of the same things, a lot of the same coverages are going to show up, and we're just going to try to do it with a little bit more effort and a little bit more physicality.
Why are your teams so good on third down?
We spend a lot of time on it. It's important to us. I tell them all the time, third down's the only down. Like, if you play defense, your job is to get to third down and win third down. And so, I think, last year we were really, really good at the last place, but I feel like our kids have embraced like the challenge of playing third down. I think Will, as an offensive coach and offensive coordinator, knows how hard it is on defenses if they don't win on third down. So it's going to be an important part of our weekly planning. And I think you've got to really attack it. You've got to have a great plan, and you've got to spend time on it.
Andre Clark was the one high school guy you got added on defense after your son. What did you like about him, and what are kind of your
Yeah, that's a pretty unique one, right? Like we went to the same high school, obviously a few years apart, but I've known him for a long time, known his dad. A really highly recruited kid. I had him come to Florida when I was there. I think he was a rising 8th grader to come to camp, and so I had a lot of knowledge of him. And so when the whole thing, he signed with Michigan, and when that thing kind of went sideways, I was able to kind of get on the phone with him, and it worked out pretty good for us. Once he went kind of decommitted from them and got out of the NLI, then we were able to get him, and it's been good. He's a really talented kid. I think getting here in June is hard, right? Because all the other young freshmen have Justin Hartley got here in June too, but he's really, I think the last couple weeks you really started to see him really kind of show. He's long, he can run, he's got some coverage ability, and AB will do a really good job with
You
him.
worked with Mike Elko at Texas A&M.
I did.
What did you learn from him that you can bring here?
A ton. I mean, he's one of the best football coaches, I think, that walk the planet right now, right? So I think the way we practice, the way you attack opponents, the overarching, like, hey, what's really important? We'd be here for a long time. He's a tremendous coach. He's a really good friend. I learned a ton from him, and we'll try to do a lot of the same things here that we did there.
Jay, when you were building this roster on the defensive line specifically, so much was made about getting Gadsden back, Humphrey Grace back. But what have you seen in a guy like Jaden Williams? What does he add to this team that maybe he's kind of gotten lost in the shuffle a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think Big K, Kalen Edwards, and Jaden Williams have really improved. I think, Anwar Stewart's extremely well thought of in the coaching industry for the developmental piece of D linemen, right? And so I think you're just seeing another year of him with those guys. I feel great about those two guys. Getting Keese and getting the big fella Gadsden back were really important, right? But I think Jaden's really improved a ton. I think he'll play more than he played last year, which he should. He's a strong kid, powerful kid. I really like him. Our kids like him. And then I think Big K is a super worker who's changed his body and is going to be a really good player in this front.
Coach, I think we've talked about every position except the one you coach, so let's talk a little bit about the backers. Tell us what we can maybe expect from Grant Godfrey, Antoine Smith, but even some of the younger guys like Taven Wallace and Bo Barnes.
Yeah, I mean, I just super excited about Grant. Really smart. Football makes sense to him. He reminds me of some of the really good ones I've had the last few years. Obviously got a really good pedigree, but long, smart, has some value as a pass rusher. Like, I expect him to have a really good year. Antoine Smith's as talented a young man as I've had. I mean, he's super fast. He's really. I mean, I think when you guys see him, you'll see this. When I got here, I think he was about 208 pounds, 210 pounds. He's like 225 right now. The work he's done in the weight room with our strength staff is unbelievable. So I think he's really made himself an SEC caliber athlete to play linebacker now. So I'm excited about those two. I think Bo's done a tremendous job. Big, physical. At Texas, he started in the bowl game and played really good for him, and that was part of our appeal of getting him here, was seeing what it could be. Obviously, I had recruited him for a while at the previous place, but super excited about those three guys. Tavion's really talented. It's still clicking. He's getting better. I was on vacation one week and he FaceTimed me to tell me that he had got something right, which I was like, yeah, it's kind of the expectation, Tavion. But I love that kid. He's really powerful. A couple of our coaches when they first got here and we're doing drills were like, man, who is that guy? I'm like, yeah, he's got some traits that are hard to find, right? So I think it's a really talented room. It's a long, good-looking room. They just haven't played much, and we got to do a really good job of kind of massaging them through some of the early games. But I feel like once they get their feet on the ground and start playing, I feel really good about Grant. The other guys got to play a little more than they've played, but it's a talented group that I think will keep getting better.
How does a versatile tight end like Willie Rodriguez give a defense fits?
Yeah, Willie Rodriguez is a tremendous player. I mean, I think they do. Joe does a tremendous job with the tight ends. He's had some really good ones, right? Like those two kids he had at LSU will be two of the, a year from now, will be two of the best ones in the NFL. So I think Willie's in that same vein of like they can flex him out and use him as a receiver, and then he's also a physical enough kid to go in and block people. Really gives you a problem when you got him and Boyer on their field, because they can really get into some run sets where you really got to try to outnumber the run, and you do that, and all of a sudden now he's on a linebacker. That's not real good. So he's a tremendous player. I knew he was a good player, seeing him on film, like crossovers and talk to other people about him. But yeah, really impressed with how he works. He's a tremendous player, man. We're really glad we got him.
Jay, as a new coaching staff coming in, sometimes it takes a while to develop trust with your players. At what point did you feel like you had that trust, or you had that trust with your players?
Yeah, I think this is my, I've done this a few times now. Like, you have to invest in them with the anticipation that they're not going to give anything back, right? Like, that's what your job as a coach is, to serve. And so I think we've got really, really good guys on our defensive staff and our offensive staff that came in and just poured into our kids. And I think once they feel like you've got their best interest in heart and you have invested in them, then they start to believe what you're saying, right? And look, I mean, I've had some success. Joe's had some success with some really good players. So I think when they see that, they kind of think maybe this guy knows what he's doing. And then when it starts to work a little bit, then it starts to pay off. But we've got really good young men. I feel really good about our locker room. So I think, like, when you've got really good kids and you pour into them, like, good things are going to happen, right? And it's just a matter of time.
Jay, you talked a little bit about Anwar, but why was it important to you to keep him on staff?
I tried to hire him when I was at Florida, and he wouldn't. Like, I got him a pretty good raise. But I think a tremendous person, a tremendous developer. Obviously, he played here. I think there's real value when you play somewhere and had the success he did as a player and as a coach with some of the guys he's recruited and coached. And I think there was a level of stability with him here. He was involved in recruiting a lot of the kids on defense, whether they were D linemen or linebackers. He recruited Antoine Smith. And so I just think, like, for Will to be able to keep him, and then I was really excited about him. I obviously, had really positive things I've heard about him and my experience with him, and really glad he's here, man. He does a tremendous job.
Jay, Coach Stein said that Martell's will be running back, and Joe's already mentioned how excited he is to have him on offense, but how disappointing was it for you to lose him?
Yeah, he's a really good player. Like I told him like the fourth or fifth day of practice, I'm like, that's what you get for looking so good in those return drills, But Martell's a really good player. We got to have a good plan for him, and I think he'll help us on offense a lot.
Coach, you mentioned to us, I want to say back in the spring, about how important the nickel position is, not only for your defense, but really defenses across college. Talk a little bit about who we maybe can expect in that position, and maybe why you feel confident that they'll be able to defend in man and zone.
Yeah, I think the nickel kind of makes things go a little bit. I think you see that in the NFL too. The value they're starting to put on some of those guys. That's why getting Aaron was really important to me. He's really talented. He's essentially a corner that can tackle, right? And so good blitzer, smart. I think he's really fit in. He's looking great right now, healthy. So we're pretty fired up about him. Kevis Thomas has done a nice job. Kind of sliding in there, and more of a coverage guy who I think you'll see on a lot of our third down packages, the ability to go in there and cover the slot. But kid I'm really excited about, and then I think you'll see, some of the safeties, Jaden Smith can go out there and play nickel some and do a lot of the same things as Gates. So we've got some candidates. Andrew Purcell, I thought, had a really good summer. I challenged him to kind of, hey, look, this needs to be practice 16 when we get back from spring, not practice 1 of summer. Felt like he did a nice job with that. So we've got some good candidates there, but obviously getting Aaron, a kid who's done it at a high level in this league, against some of the slots you got to defend, it was important, and I'm pretty fired up about that kid.
How does having a guy like Ty Bryant in the back end had the league in interceptions last year, like how does that simplify your back end of your defense?
Yeah, I just think he's a tremendous leader. He's a tremendous player. I don't know how a kid is second team All SEC, and then a year later is at preseason All SEC. I'll let you guys figure that part out. But he's a tremendous player. I think he'll make a lot of plays this year. We'll get him to the point of attack a lot, and I think he's. Look, the most important recruit that I've gotten to visit with since I've been here was Ty Bryant and his family when I first got hired, and we're really fortunate he's here.
He told us in Tampa that he told you he does not have a quarterback sack, and you said we're going to have to fix that.
Yeah, that'll be pretty quick.
Jay, from your perspective on the other side of the ball, how did you see Malachi Wood progress against everything that you threw at him?
Yeah, when we got here, he was still a little bit dinged up, but as he kind of came back, first of all, he's a giant human, right? He looks like what the tackles in this league are supposed to look like, but a really smart kid. I think he's a good player, man. I think he'll play as long as his body will allow him to. He's a talented kid.
Coach, you were talking earlier about being able to blitz from all three levels, and you just referred to Ty. Fans love blitzing, and they complain when it isn't enough, but I know ideally you want to get home without sending an extra man. How would you describe your philosophy on that? Are you more aggressive with blitzing, or what should fans expect? I'm sure it's week to week.
I think the key thing is you want to try to be around 40% pressure rate. And so what's pressure mean? It means you affect the quarterback when he throws the football, right? And so if your front can do it, which is the easiest way to do it, cool, that's easy, right? Very few people in the world have that, right? Like LA Rams do. You got to have really talented players to do that, right? But you also have to give those kids the ability to pass rush, and if everything is conversion from run to pass in the front, it's hard to get home, right? So you have to allow that. You have to put them in a position where the front can rush, right? But then there becomes the addition of second and third level defenders, and it's like anything else, right? There's value and pressure, but when you add somebody to the pass rush, you take someone away from coverage, right? So it's in an ideal world, you're rushing and still playing zone coverage behind it of some sort. And then, you mix in man coverage and you mix in, other coverages behind it. But in an ideal world, you create pressure with the front as much as possible, and you have to give them a chance to do that. And then you add the second and third defenders as you see fit. And then the other part of it is sometimes there's blitzes that are run blitzes that are trying to outnumber a run box or cut a play off or whatever the point of the blitz may be. But yeah, for sure, you need, if you never blitz, it becomes pretty easy to block those guys, right? If you blitz all the time, it's I tell our guys all the time, blitzing and playing man is like salt. It makes everything taste really good, but it's going to kill you eventually. And so it's like managing how much you do that. It's like anything else, right? Every week's a little bit different, every opponent's a little bit different, and you want to have the menu to pick from to attack an opponent.
Jay, another big picture question, but the stats show that offenses are going forward more and more and more on fourth down. How much have you had to do just that as a coach? Just that you used to know, hey, get 3 downs, get them off the field. Now a lot of teams just stay out there and try to.
No, it's a big part of our game plan. It's a big part of our decision making. Will and I have talked about when we're on defense, his ability to tell me, hey, our book says this is a go, and so all of a sudden 3rd and 5 plays more like 2nd and 5. And so it increases the value of winning 1st and 2nd down and getting an advantage as a play caller on 3rd down.
What separates you from past defensive coaches that came from the University of Kentucky?
I think they've had some really good ones here, So I hope I can get these kids to play at the level and the consistency that they've played at when they've played really, really good defense here, And I think what separates me maybe is how I see things, how schematically. But look, they've got a lot of good years of defense here. Brad White's a really good coach, so I think it's building off what was built, adding some things schematically, right? Adding players, right, and continuing to play at a really high level.
Okay, folks, thank you very much.